My wife is pregnant, and I'm infertile broken heart. This is a true story. The narrator begins. I married my cousin 18 years ago. She was an exceptional wife, and together we built a beautiful family with 4 sons and 1 daughter. May God guide them and keep them righteous. A while ago, I started experiencing some health issues and was diagnosed with a prostate condition. Excuse my mentioning this. As part of the treatment process, I underwent several medical tests. It was during these tests that I discovered something shocking. I was infertile. I froze in disbelief. How could I be infertile when I already had 5 children? My mind raced with questions and doubts. I didn't want to accuse my wife unfairly, but I couldn't silence the storm brewing in my heart. Desperate for clarity, I sought out multiple medical opinions, visiting 3 different hospitals, and each confirmed the same result. I was infertile. Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to conduct DNA tests for my children. But I couldn't bear the thought of confronting my wife. So, late one night, as my children slept peacefully, I carefully collected strands of their hair. I submitted the samples to a lab, and when I asked how long it would take, the doctor replied, 1 month. This test is extremely precise and takes time. That month was the longest of my life. I returned home each day with turmoil in my heart. My love for my children, once unconditional and overflowing, was now tinged with suspicion. I found myself snapping at them for the smallest things. Their laughter grated on my nerves, and I yelled at them to stop misbehaving. My wife, puzzled by my sudden change, took the children to their room and approached me gently. "What's wrong with you?" she asked, concern etched on her face. I looked at her, and a dark thought crossed my mind, one I immediately suppressed. "There is no God but Allah," I whispered to calm myself. She persisted, asking if I was tired or unwell. I simply nodded and told her I was exhausted. She offered to prepare a meal for me, but I refused and retreated to the couch, drowning in my thoughts. That night, I barely slept. Nightmares haunted me. I saw myself hurting my wife, my children, and even myself. By morning, I left the house, unable to face them. From a distance, I watched my home, noting every movement. For a whole month, I didn't see my wife leave the house or anyone enter. But my doubts refused to fade. When the day finally came to retrieve the test results, the lab informed me there would be another week's delay. Frustrated and restless, I turned to my closest friend, a man I considered a brother. I poured my heart out to him, confessing my suspicions and the unbearable weight they brought. He listened patiently, then smiled reassuringly. "Your children are yours," he said with conviction. "Your wife is honorable and loyal. Don't let your imagination ruin what you have." His words offered a flicker of hope. I returned home, determined to act normally. But when I walked through the door, my wife asked why I was late, and I snapped at her. My children approached me to play, but I barked at them to stay away. My heart ached for the love I once freely gave, but could no longer feel. The next day, my wife confronted me, saying she couldn't bear my behavior anymore. "If there's something wrong, tell me," she pleaded. Feeling cornered, I went back to my friend, who suggested setting up hidden cameras in the house to ease my mind. It seemed like a logical solution, so I installed 2 discrete cameras and connected them to my phone. But the next day, the cameras malfunctioned. Frustrated, I took them back to the shop, convinced that the universe was conspiring against me. My wife continued to endure my coldness with patience, but I knew I was on the verge of snapping. Then, one day, as I sat with my friend in a restaurant, I decided to check the live feed from the cameras on my phone. What I saw shook me to my core. Through the feed, I saw my neighbor, a doctor, entering my home and heading straight to my bedroom with my wife. Rage consumed me. I stormed out of the restaurant, ignoring my friend's calls to wait. Gripping a weapon in my hand, I drove home, ready to confront them. When I burst into the room, chaos erupted. My wife screamed. My neighbor tried to explain, and my friend, who had followed me, wrestled the weapon out of my hand. It was then that my neighbor finally spoke. "Your son is gravely ill with a high fever," he said. "I came to help, but if I had known how this would escalate, I would have stayed away." His words barely registered before my friend turned to him and asked, "What about the boy? How is he now?" The doctor lowered his gaze. "He didn't make it," he said. "The fever was too severe." My world crumbled. My son, my beloved child, was gone. At his funeral, I couldn't shed a single tear. My heart, hardened by suspicion, couldn't process the loss. It wasn't until the next day, when I picked up the DNA results, that reality hit me. The doctor handed me the report saying the tests confirm it 100%. "They are all your children." A scream tore from my chest as I collapsed, crying, "I killed my son. I killed him." I went to his grave, begging for his forgiveness, mourning not just his loss, but the love I had let doubt steal from me. At the end, trust is the foundation of love. Never let doubt destroy what honesty and communication can resolve.